Welcome back to Business Today. It is a good day to be alive, and if you are on the continent of Africa, we've just concluded the Africa Climate 23, the first one, as it is termed, inaugural. But let's look at the flip side of it, because the impact of climate is severely felt in Africa, and the world has known this for a very long time and promised to intervene and whatnot. Now, despite being largely responsible for the worsening of climate crisis in East Africa, rich nations paid Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, and South Sudan just $2.4 billion in climate-related development finance in 2021, in stark contrast to the $53.3 billion East Africa says it needs annually to meet its 2030 climate goals. Oxfam's Unfair Share report, published in this week, actually shows that the biggest polluting nations have fallen short of meeting both the climate and the humanitarian funds East African countries need to recover from the climate hunger crisis. It highlights the impact of climate change on the future of this region.
Change is a big part also of the food insecurity we're seeing now. And you just have to visit and meet with people who will tell you, we have not seen a normal rain pattern for the last 5 years. We have not seen a good rain for the last 2 years. The evidence is here. You know that 60% of African people live in rural areas. This goes up to 79% in South Sudan. So when you say living in rural areas, it means that they usually live from, growing crops or, herding cattle. So when climate change affects those areas and those communities, obviously people are greatly affected, more than people living in urban areas. So in the 4 countries we have focused in the Unfair Share report, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, and South Sudan, we estimate that 31.5 million people are currently facing hunger at different levels. So this is the situation we're facing today, and it's growing by the day because extreme climate events are happening as we were writing the report and as we speak today.
The brunt of the climate crisis is impacted by women and rural women. Globally, 50% of food production is by women. And in Africa, that goes as high as 80%, and it's largely because of the agricultural sector. And so the solution now is, one, to make sure we get financing to women directly, land ownership rights, and also make sure that there is a deliberate way of having women not only in our governments but in our boardrooms as CEOs, and very much having rural women part of the discussion.
But just 3 things. One, that's a very good question to conclude. One is, during emergencies, then livelihoods have been sustained. So issues of water, sanitation, health and nutrition, food issues, cash transfers has to be done. During the development phase, then resilience development has to be the priority, basing the development on the successes already made during the emergency phase. And finally, and the most important issue is that we hope to have an agreement in the COP28 coming up in December in UAE.
The way I look at it is, as youth and as members of the civil society, we really need to promote environmental education, and then provide yourself the space. Look for it, and really push this agenda to ensure that the frameworks are really functioning.
But hopefully, this session has been an eye-opener for those of us in the room, that we as the media are the mouthpiece for the communities, but also disseminating what's going on in terms of, it's complex in terms of climate change, but just explain, why is it getting hotter? Why is the rain less? And making it...
All right, that is the other side of this particular issue of climate interventions. Now,